Hey, everybody. This is Natalie Fikac from the Texas Institute for Excellence in Mental Health, and you're listening to Talking Beyond Trauma. Becoming a mother is often described as one of life's most beautiful experiences. But what about the parts that we don't see on social media? The sleepless nights, moments of doubt, and silent struggles. This season, we're exploring the unspoken challenges of maternal mental health with Amanda Boquist. Amanda has over 15 years of experience in clinical settings, schools, and school districts. She provides training and technical assistance in the school mental health space. Since becoming a mom, Amanda has been open about her pregnancy journey and advocates for more authentic maternal mental health conversations. Today, we'll discuss the roller coaster of pre-pregnancy and pregnancy, including confronting shame, being pregnant during the pandemic, and letting go of control. Before we begin, let's recognize that motherhood comes in all forms. We want to honor and respect everyone's unique journey as a mother. And whether you're a new mom, an experienced parent, or someone supporting a mother, this podcast is just for you. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon, Amanda.
Hi.
We're so happy to have you on this podcast about maternal mental health. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me. I am really excited to be here. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, went to college here at St. Edward's, and did my graduate work in New York, got my master's in psychology, and through a series of events, found myself in the world of education, which I didn't anticipate, but have fallen in love with it. And I'm now living in Houston and married with 2 little boys and a dog.
Well, I feel very fortunate that I've known Amanda for 7 years.
Yeah.
We've worked together in various capacities, both at a school district supporting school counselors and students on their post-secondary journey, and now as part of Tame, also known as the Texas Institute for Excellence in Mental Health. So this is a really important topic we're going to talk about today, and I've been kind of along for the ride for part of it, and you as well with part of my journey as a mother. So I'm just going to kind of start off with a general question, just for you to just take a moment to think about what maternal mental health means to you.
You know, it's a really interesting question, because I think that if you had asked me that prior to having children, I probably would have had a very different answer for you. But having been a mom and developing a community of moms of support, I would say maternal mental health is runs the full gamut of taking care of oneself while juggling the challenges of parenthood simultaneously. And I think there's a distinction that moms face, because so much of the language and literature around parenting does not address the mental health of the mother. We know that our hormones don't actually regulate until it can be up to 2 years after giving birth. Our hormones are wild. It's incredible to me that people aren't really addressing the mental health of moms, other than we know, postpartum depression is kind of the common just thing that we talk about. It's so much bigger than that.
Agree. I think back to my oldest son is 26, and around the time that I had an infant, I think it was Brooke Shields who was coming out and talking about her struggles with postpartum depression, and it was the first I'd ever heard of that, as a young 23-year-old mom. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you think about maternal mental health, you mentioned the physiology. Being a mother encompasses your physical health and your mental health. Sometimes we tend to bucket those, but they're overlapped in a way. How might you define or describe that in your experience or in your eyes?
personally, I am well educated in the world of psychology. I have experienced many things in a clinical setting and in an educational setting as far as mental health issues. And I was not okay after giving birth to my first son. And I didn't even realize it. I didn't recognize it. And it was about, I guess Luke was about 8 months old. And my husband found me standing at the kitchen sink just weeping for no apparent reason, mid-washing dishes. And he came and put his hand on my shoulder and said, I think maybe something is wrong. And it was the first time that I really stopped to think about, like, wait, maybe something is actually wrong that I haven't even had the capacity to think about. Yeah. And it was a really powerful and profound moment for me because I'm like, listen, I'm well educated. I am well experienced in this area. I know myself. I'm very self-aware. And I missed it. I think in the world of mental health in general, there's this thought that because we can't see it, it's not real. And I think that's no different in maternal mental health. We can see that a woman is physically pregnant. There are tangible things that are happening when a person gives birth. Either they're having a C-section and they're surgically removing, or they're naturally having the baby. And all of those things change our physical appearance. And so when people are addressing those things, it's much easier to see, oh, you're getting better, or, oh, you're not walking funny because you're in pain. Whereas the mental health is unseen to a lot of people. And I think it's compounded by the fact that many women try to hide that and pretend that they're okay because having a newborn is tough as it is. When you couple that with some mental health challenges or some things that maybe we can't even describe because we don't even understand them ourselves in the moment because everything else is happening, that it's sometimes I think harder to define. And so that moment for me was kind of a driving factor in my decision to really be outspoken about this topic with anybody I encounter, and especially those I'm close with, and my friends who are having babies and whatnot. So it's tough.
That was a similar experience for me, and thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to say, when you say you're outspoken about it, there's so much truth in that. I mean, I know you professionally and personally, and even though your boys are younger than mine, you are always such a guiding light and force for me to level set when things are difficult for my 3 boys. So
thank you for saying that.
I appreciate what you call as outspokenness. But I think I might kind of reframe that as your authenticity and your vulnerability, right? And then also, again, your emotional intelligence, because it's awareness of yourself and your own experience, and then awareness of what someone else is experiencing and helping people. You're a true helper.
I think that people don't talk about it enough, and I think the term normalize is maybe a bit overused, but I think that the more that we recognize that this is common humanity and a lot of us are dealing with these really challenging things all at once. And so it's really creating a support system, and that's kind of my goal.
I love that. And I appreciate you for that as a friend and as a colleague. Could we just take a moment and maybe expand on or explore some of the lingo that we might hear whenever we talk about maternal mental health?
Yeah, I think that, and historically, I think we've heard this was histrionic or hysteria of women, right? And we didn't really know how to define this, and we didn't really know what was going on. Probably anxiety and depression are the top 2 that I would say most people have heard and feel confident enough to use in a general sense. Mm-hmm. I think there are some, though, that maybe are overgeneralized and overused. The definition of postpartum depression is you want to harm your child or abandon your child. And I didn't have any of those feelings. So when I was seeking help, we really just identified that I just had depression, and it just happened to be postpartum.
Right.
So it was a subsect of that. And that's okay too, because I knowing my background, I thought, well, I don't want to harm my child, and I'm not feeling these specific things that this is saying, but there is something that is not right. So yeah, I think that there's people kind of throw around terms unknowingly or maybe even unkindly in some ways to excuse it or justify the behaviors or the things that feelings that people are experiencing.
Sometimes we hear like name it to tame it. If we name it, it'll make it go away, right? Or it'll put it on a box on a shelf and this is how you fix it.
Right.
And you've mentioned the but the thinking of common humanity and just how we're human, but we're also unique and different. And each moment in time is different depending on who you are and what you've experienced. So, yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. So, for this next part, I'd just like for you to talk about your journey, your pre-pregnancy journey, your pregnancy journey, and your postpartum journey. I'm imagining that for both your boys, it looked a little different.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful to have this space to share. My husband and I were married for about a year and a half before we decided we wanted to start a family, and we got pregnant right away with our first son.
What was that experience like for you physically and mentally when you think about your mental and physical health during those months?
I think my physical health was really kind of a non-issue. My hair was glowing and my nails were strong and I wasn't sick a day. I loved being pregnant. And I know that this is not everyone's experience. I have had many friends who have had really, really tough pregnancies and are sick all of the time. And I mean, listen, the fatigue the first trimester, out of this world. It is, I have never experienced fatigue like this, maybe postpartum with a newborn, but that's more sleep deprivation. But otherwise, physically, I had a pretty easy pregnancy. I would say my mental health was riddled with trying to know everything and learn and prepare for every possible scenario, know everything that was happening in my body at that very moment. When was I creating eyelashes? When was I creating toenails? When, there's so many like old wives' tale. Oh, you have heartburn. Oh, it's going to be, baby's going to have a lot of hair. Which is not true in my case, FYI. But I think that my mind was just overwhelmed with trying to know it all before I gave birth.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was societal pressure, if you will. Part of that is just my personality and wanting to have everything ready and set. Yeah, I don't know that I mean, like just severe anxiety, not about the outcome, just about the preparation piece so that when it was time, then I didn't have to have anxiety.
Yeah. So out of control, right? We had this conversation on the way here today, actually.
Yes. Trying to control every situation possible.
So I think back to my pregnancy journey. Of course, my youngest son is 19. So it's been a couple decades, y'all. But like we didn't have apps and we didn't have all these cool little awesome things that we have now. Like our book was What to Expect in 9 months.
What to expect when you're expecting?
Yes. I'm so sorry. What to expect when you're expecting. And I remember taking the book and it was all like bent and highlighting and putting Post-its and going to the class. And again, I think that was like you were mentioning, like my anxiety and my need to like not control. I mean, maybe it was control, but like be prepared.
Yeah.
So that when I was functioning on an hour's worth of sleep, I could pull some knowledge out of my brain, right?
Yep.
Is there anything else you would want to share about what that was like for you?
I am very type A and had a plan that was printed and laminated and given to my doctor. And I had the full expectation that everything was going to go exactly as I had planned. Silly me. My birth of my first son was really tough. I labored for 40 hours.
Oh, wow.
And had to have some medical intervention to get him out. And the first thing, my husband might be upset that I'm going to say this, but he leaned down to my ear and immediately said, I think something's wrong with him. He was just purple, and babies are gross at first. So he was fine.
His first experience in seeing a baby.
That's true. Even though we'd taken all of the classes and read all the books and all the things. But no, and so that was fine. And then as I mentioned earlier, it was really hard. I felt very imbalanced. The sleep deprivation is real. And some women struggle severely with sleep deprivation for much longer than I did. And then I found myself, Luke was about 8 months old, and I found myself telling my doctor, I think I'm depressed. That was hard to process. That's not my nature, generally. And I am a firm believer that I didn't need any medical intervention. And I was wrong. I was very wrong. That was certainly what helped me in my experience. And it didn't last too long, but I was grateful that I received the help that I did. I think one of the things also that isn't widely addressed is actually the fact that the actual experience of giving birth can be very traumatic for women based on a litany of reasons. But there's this overwhelming expectation or societal view that giving birth is this most beautiful miracle, and it is, but there's a lot that goes into that, and some of that can be really traumatic to women. So if we're not acknowledging and supporting, these women giving birth and ourselves, then there's a disconnect there as well.
Agree. I'm reflecting on all 3 births of my boys and thinking about that.
Yeah. One thing I did not anticipate was what it would feel like to struggle to get pregnant. And I didn't have that experience the first time, as I mentioned, but the second time, there was a real sense of shame and of failure, and I did not anticipate feeling those feelings. And the shift in in how often we tried became very regimented, kind of took the fun out of it when it becomes a science. And so just, it shifted like intimacy. And I was not on IVF or IUI and not any of these intensive medical interventions that many, many women rely on. Right. And if I'm struggling and feeling these things, I can only imagine how challenging it would be to, have those other experiences. And we did have one pregnancy loss between getting pregnant each time. And I also never imagined what that would feel like. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I don't know if I want to try again, because I don't want to feel these feelings ever again. It was so terrible. And my heart goes out to any woman who has ever lost a child in utero. It's beyond devastating. And then continue to try and try and try. I truly don't know how women do it. But the success and the end result is, the guiding light, right?
Yeah. You mentioned at the beginning the shame of continued loss, right? And trying and trying and trying and all of that. And then what we know about shame is if you put shame in a petri dish and you douse it with empathy, it cannot survive. Like, we are not immune of shame. And shame derives its power from being unspoken. And with all the people, women, who might be feeling this way too, I want to go back to kind of where we started, where you said, like, I want to be a voice to help women to talk about how hard things are. Like, the empathy that you provide other women, is both healing for yourself and for others. So I just want to applaud you for that and for being here to share your story.
Well, thank you. Lessons learned.
Remember.
Things don't go the way that they are always planned. But yeah, it took us about 3 years and some medical help to get pregnant a second time. But we were fortunate enough to get pregnant a second time. This time I went in with a very different set of expectations. Different doctor, different hospital, post-COVID.
Right.
Which changed the entire world of medicine. But
and
so
I remember, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I remember when that happened and just thinking back to what all was happening in our world at that time. Pandemic. I remember you going to the hospital by yourself.
Yep.
Because no one could be in there with you.
Right.
I remember also at that time you had a smaller child in a very rough stage of like activity.
Yeah, he was 4.
Like all the things, right? 4-year-old,
and
pandemic,
shifting to work from home. So we were all in each other's spaces at the same time. It was tough. It was really, really tough. Thankfully, we're on the other side of that now. But yeah, it was really incredible. And you know, when I went in, I don't remember my doctor or any of the other doctors asking me how I was feeling or recommending that I find some support somewhere. Like that was not part of the conversation. And again, this is just another, piece of the puzzle that we're completely missing and in my opinion, failing women on. Because that has to be part of it. It has to be addressed so that we feel supported, so that we feel a little bit better. It's not going to fix our problems. It's not going to change how we feel necessarily. But it allows us a little bit of support to know that if and when we potentially experience this again, we're not doing it alone.
Yeah.
I
hear what you're saying.
And I think not only do we not feel that we're supported in maybe the medical field as well as we should be, but we're not supporting each other, right? And so by me sharing my experience with one person, I have found on many occasions that after sharing my experience, they also have had similar experiences. And then there's this automatic created safe space to share and to talk. And there's so much power in that to move forward. Healing properties like crazy. So yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
And can I just say before we move forward?
Of course.
I know that we're not really talking about men or spouses in this situation, but I also think that they are part of the equation and need to be supported in their role as well to help support the women giving birth.
Right.
So I think that's a piece, that's a component that I don't want to be remiss and not address and not discuss. But yeah, all around support needed. Just spouses in general need to be supported.
Yeah.
We joked this past week and we had family together and we joked that parenting is a contact sport. Like I had no idea that the highs would be so high and that the lows would be so low. And I think that, keeping that perspective is really the only thing that keeps us going and that connects me. I have found an incredible group of parents to be part of my community and a support system. And it's been a really beautiful thing to watch my husband and I as parents kind of grow into that role and now also be growing these young humans and developing them into, little boys and young men and sharing that, the old adage takes a village. I lean into that wholeheartedly because I don't know where I would be without my community and my support systems. So, yeah. Moms in general, people in general, just please ask for help. If you find yourself needing anything, there are people out there who want to help you and support you, and it's going to be okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what I would say about asking for help is asking for help builds trust. And trust is so important, especially as you're raising young people. You want to have the young person that you're raising surrounded by people that you trust and people that trust you.
So true.
And that's just a great way to kind of start building that trust, is just asking for help.
Yep.
And oftentimes as parents, I hear, like, I'm going to do this better than the way I was raised. I'm going to do this different than the way my mom or parent or caregiver did this. And I just think this is our independent opportunity to do things the way that we want to do them as parents. So there's freedom and there's power, not power, but there's freedom and peace in that potentially, depending on your situation.
Yeah, no, I actually think there is power in that. I think, listen, we all want to do it better. We all, maybe I shouldn't say we all, but most of us recognize that there were some things that we experienced maybe as children that we don't want our children to experience. And we are not perfect people. So we will make different mistakes. Yeah. And that's okay too. Again, I truly think that this, having a community and having people to share things with allows us not only to kind of have confidence in our decisions, but also kind of a sounding board. Yeah. Hey, my kid is experiencing this at school. What should I do? Or, hey, I'm feeling off. I haven't slept in 4 days. What should I do? Could you babysit my kid for a night? There are just so many things that
takes a level of vulnerability that we may or may not be capable of having depending on our overall health.
True.
So I think there's in that when you're pregnant kind of journey as you're building this baby, which is so amazing, potentially learning who your support section is and who your who will support you in this and who can you talk to, and asking questions of your doctor and doing the research. But there is a level of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And I often tell my boys who are now 26, 24, and 19, like, when I get something wrong, and I do all the time, I'm like, I am very sorry. Like, this is my first time to have a 24-year-old in the year 2024. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I think just that takes a level of vulnerability that I wish that I would have had when I had toddlers and infants. So it's part of that, human
You have it
experience.
now, and they're learning it now with you.
I sure hope so. Their frontal lobes are still forming, so we're almost there. So I guess I might follow up with a question if for any pregnant mothers now, what suggestions might you give them for that preparation?
Gosh, I love this question. And let me just preface this by saying I am not a doctor. So talk to your doctor if you have any concerns or questions. But my best piece of advice is take everything with a grain of salt. Everybody wants to give you advice and tell you what you ought to be doing or how you should feel or how things should be. And I learned to just say, thank you so much, and move right along because the reality is you need to make it right for you. And that can look very different than in any book or in any blog or anybody else's experience. My second piece of advice is just kind of lean into it. Our bodies do incredible things. This is like, it's wild to think about the fact that our bodies are able to create new life. And so there's a lot of changes that are happening. And those changes are okay, and they're intentional, and they're meant to be. And so just be loving to yourself and kind to yourself, and know that it's all for a purpose.
I love that so much.
I mean, there's all sorts of things that are, you hear people all the time as soon as they give birth, oh, you look so great. well, I might have gained 40 pounds or 80 pounds or whatever. I might not have showered in 4 days. Maybe don't comment on my appearance. Your body did an incredible thing just now. So, like, just own that. That's awesome.
Yeah, our bodies built babies.
Yeah, dude.
That's pretty awesome.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Talking Beyond Trauma. I also want to thank Amanda for sharing her story with such vulnerability today. If you enjoyed our conversation, we invite you to subscribe, leave a review, or share with others who might find it helpful. In the next episode, Amanda will take us through her post-pregnancy experience. Plus, we'll discuss the importance of support networks and finding community. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to our production of Talking Beyond Trauma, which is made available by the South-Southwest Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, or MHTTC, through a cooperative agreement funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. The MHTTC's primary goal is to provide free training, share best practices, and offer ongoing support and consultation to professionals serving individuals with mental health challenges. We would like to extend our gratitude to our guest, Amanda Boquist, and our host, Dr. Natalie Fikac, for their contribution to this discussion. Lastly, we would like to acknowledge the hard work of our dedicated team, without whom this project would not have been possible. Season 3 was produced by the communications team here at the Texas Institute for Excellence in Mental Health. It was recorded and edited by Mckenzie Bentley. Our theme music is by Scooter Holiday. The opinions expressed in this presentation are the views of our speakers and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services, or SAMHSA. If you'd like more information on this and other MHTTC products in the South-Southwest region, you can find a link in the episode description. This session was pre-recorded. We appreciate your participation and hope the discussion helped your journey. Be well.